Some companies are built around convenience. Some are built around speed. Some are built around making everyday life a little easier. But some companies are built around problems where the progress itself matters. Cancer is one of those problems. It is complex, it is personal, it is adaptive, and it is unforgiving. So when a founder builds in that space, they're not just building a product, they are building a belief around science that may take years to prove. They are building through uncertainty, risk, capital, partnerships, and most importantly, against time. Today, we are talking about biotech entrepreneurship, immuno-oncology, and what it means to build a company where the stakes are not just commercial, they are human. So let's start it up. Hello, and welcome to Stack and Startup Baltimore, where we talk with founders, operators, creators, and business leaders about the realities of building something. Today, I am joined by Roman Owens, founder and CEO of OncoVanta Therapeutics. Uh, Roman, how are you doing this morning?
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm a little bit nervous, but thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, don't worry about it. Once you really get into it, it's going to be very second nature to you. And yeah, I've very rarely had somebody like have their nervousness really kind of affect them. But why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and your company?
Well, thank you. Yes. Well, I'm Roman Owens. I'm the co-founder, CEO, co-founder of a biotech company called OncoVanta Therapeutics. And what we are doing along with my collaboration with Howard University and two of the professors over there, in addition to another professor out of UPenn, we have decided to form a company that will target pancreatic cancer, solid tumor T cells using solid tumor T cells. So our overall focus right now is to focus on the research aspect of it. We have an agreement license out of NIH, which allows us to focus specifically on TP53 mutations in cancer. Um, my background is in engineering as well as finance, and I've worked at companies like Morgan Stanley and Geico as business analysts. But I've always had a passion for biotech. When I was an analyst at Morgan Stanley and at engineering as a company in Bechtel, I always looked at cancer research as something that excited me for some reason. It was something that I found that it was something the end result in helping people was something that I really found to be meaning to my life. So for 10 years, I've been researching and looking at in the industry and following it for 10 years. And then last year, I decided to go back to my alma mater in Howard University and start talking to some of the research doctors there to see if there was something that we can possibly do to target cancer and especially pancreatic cancer.
I think that's absolutely awesome. And in the tech world, you may not think like, oh, pancreatic cancer has a reference in the tech world, but it really kind of does, in that one of the most influential people and sometimes controversial, Steve Jobs, died of pancreatic cancer.
Wow. Oh, yes, he did. Yes, in 2011, right? It was pancreatic
Yeah,
cancer.
yeah,
Wow. 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 Yeah. Yes, it is the this one of my first advisors, and I'm going to keep his name private for his family for respect,
that's fine.
but one of my first advisors when I got into this, and I was doing some research, it was a doctor that I knew, we were colleagues in other work that we were doing, but I never knew him personally, but we always talked at work where I was at, and he would tell me about you know. Uh, different things in the biotechnology because we shared that love and interest. So when I first started the company, he was my first advisor, and I asked him to just do a little bit of the just kind of a summary research and kind of give me an idea of what TP53 mutations are. And he was like, he took it. We worked together for it. He explained, took hours explaining to me, trying to get me to understand the mechanisms that how the T cell receptors work with, or the DNA within the cells work. And we decided that he would help me first, initially, as my initial advisor. And we had formed this company, but I was going to use him as an advisor. And he let me know one day that he actually is suffering from a cancer, a stage 4 cancer. And he was, going through therapies and but he had a test to see possibly if he could have it removed. It was a solid tumor in his abdomen, and he showed me it, and he told me that this is something where I'm going to go test this. I mean, they're going to see if they can do exploratory surgery to see if it could be removed. Um, but he went to California. Unfortunately, when he came back, it wasn't successful. There was some complications, and long story short, he got worse after that. So I didn't see him at work anymore. So then one of the things he did, he tried one last therapy up in Boston, and it didn't go well either. And then I just, we stayed in touch, and I would text him and everything. But about 2 months ago, he hadn't been in work for a while, so one of the my coworkers told me that this my friend, he passed away. He passed away from it. So this actually hits very close, because there are people that I have come across, and even in my working with this, that have some kind of family member, friend that has been devastated by cancer. And I'm a big supporter of St. Jude's cancer research. I volunteer. I've sent money. My family and I have sent money. We do volunteer for them. So when I can see something that potentially can help people and families, it's not me, but it's if I can put it together, if I can bring the people together. And the real heroes of this are the research scientists. To me, the team that I have in the research and the work that they do, they are doing, yeoman's work. They are just really, they don't, they're very they don't get overblown with the potential. I do more so, but they are okay. We got to get the next milestone. Okay, yes, we got positive data on that, but they constantly keep us moving in a particular steps that we use for the research to make certain that when we do give this to patients, there's the all the risk in it has been reduced, so that hopefully what I'm experiencing and saying yes, this is going to help, it actually can reproduce that and actually deliver on that.
That is that's amazing, and I'm sorry about the tragedy of your basically your mentor. It sounds like,
Yes,
um,
yes, yeah, that's exactly it. Yes, yeah, I never thought
um,
about it like that, but yes, yeah,
yeah. But it does sound like he definitely got you going in the right direction, because everything that I've seen, and I possess basically a layman's version of knowledge of pancreatic cancer. Like I said, the knowledge of Steve Jobs passing from it is
yeah,
that it's essentially a death sentence.
yes. At that
Um,
state, yes, yeah, yeah. And that particular type of cancer, yes, yes, it is.
and it's one that just like it can go from like 1 to 100
Yeah,
so quickly.
yeah,
And so, yeah, it's like like a lot of cancers that we're seeing is like, oh, if you catch it early, you know, uh, breast cancer, testicular cancer, skin cancer. They always say it's like if you catch it early, there's a good shot that
yeah.
you will fight it and survive and thrive.
Yeah, and with the proper treatment and long-term treatment, yes, their survival rate is potentially, it's not a death sentence. It's just something that you can live with and manage.
Yep.
But it particularly comes with, you have to be able to at this stage in our science, you have to be able to catch it at that stage. And
Right.
there's help for you there, then yes, there is a positive potential that there could be, some kind of life after this. But for this particular solid tumors, um, yeah, you're right. It is basically a death sentence, and just how to cope with that, So yeah, yep.
And I do want to get into more of the science in a little bit, but I do want to talk more about just kind of like the ideas of your company, which you talked about a little bit in how you got started. But when did when did it become more of a scientific idea than just becoming a company?
Um, well, great question. Yes. When did it become? Um, Well, it's almost for me, it was the company first. Like I said, my background is in engineering and physics, and my original first love is engineering, and I work for a company called Bechtel. We used to develop nuclear reactors for power generation. I was one of the control engineers, responsible engineers that designed the seismic monitoring system on the nuclear reactor. So I had a lot of experience working with CFR code regulations, abiding by federal regulations that helps with the design. So that in itself helped me a lot with HIPAA regulations and things that we have to follow in order to follow the government's regulations in order for this, like the FDA or approval rate. So I've had experience with that, and that helped me um, learn about this. So it was the business side of it that I started first. And then I began to, because I love, physics and understanding and logic and trying to understand something, is the science came, I just naturally poured into it. I naturally loved learning how the science works, how the biotech science work. And it was a broad view first, but then I began to focus on, but I've always stayed focused on OncoVanta. I'm sorry, on cancer,
Mhm.
oncology. OncoVanta, it's a hybrid of onco, which is oncology, and Vanta, which is cancer, killing, cell killing. So Vanta, OncoVanta, killing, so killing cancer. But that is where I decided that, okay, once I fully understand, the learning of it is what I also enjoyed as well. So that all of that helps for any entrepreneurs out there. If you find something that you truly love, the results will come later. Because you'll spend so much time in something, you'll naturally begin to understand it from a level that is not from the outside if you're just cursory with it. So this is what I love putting myself. It was natural learning for me in this particular space. And because I went and got my master's and MBA in finance. I understood business, so I understood business. And then it just came down to what type of business that I want to focus on. And I didn't mention this earlier, but my own father passed away from colon cancer when I was 22 years old. And so I don't know if it had an impact on my life as far as um, that I would be led to this, but it was just something where I knew the impact. If I can dedicate my life to something, if it can help others, I figured that, this is a worthwhile cause. And I can say, Dad, hey, this is what I did with my life, since he passed away. So but I'm sorry,
No
what
worries.
was the question you said? I hope I answered it.
No, I think you basically did. Talking about the where the scientific ideas started to become,
Yeah.
but I that's another one with the colon cancer where it was pretty devastating, and now we've got outpatient screenings,
Yeah.
not
Yes.
particularly comfortable ones, but we got outpatient screenings
Yes.
where it's practically a non-issue, and I mean that's probably not the best way of phrasing it, but
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is, it is. I actually, there was a company, I don't know if I could say the name, but, they advertise on television, and I remember, and because of my history, my father passed from COVID, I have to begin after I turned 45, I had to begin to take yearly, test diagnostics for this. So, they have I think it's a pill now or something like that, that they can you or yes, there's a simple at-home test that you
Yeah.
can take for, and it's not as difficult to be in awareness of it and be able to say, hey, catching it early. So it is diagnostics is the other half of this, like you was talking about. If you can catch the cancer early, just a therapy, but the other side of cancer is the diagnostic side, which is being able to test early. And this is why, like situations like mammograms, women testing for mammograms for early testing for breast cancer, these are all absolutely just as important as if you have been diagnosed with something, and then those treatments afterwards. But preventative, care is also, preventative as well as testing early, so that we are able to see if we can help in the early stages where there is treatments and helpful care for that. So diagnostic is another big side of the cancer equation. It's the diagnostics as well as therapeutics that help in helping keeping people some kind of long-term life.
And going back to like the whole layman thing, I would say that you treat it like you would your car. You take your car in for oil changes. That's preventive. You know,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
don't want to run on dirty
Yeah.
oil for 5 years and all of a sudden your engine seizes up. That's the same thing that happens to us. We just seize up and we're
Yes.
done.
Yes. And we don't realize that what we're putting in is having a long-term effect on our overall health and well-being. So, I mean, there's so many different areas of cancer, and this is my passion. This is the stake that this is the hill I'll die on. But the other important factor is mental health.
Hmm.
Advances in mental health and being understand people's mental health is another, as science and technology begins to help us, in understanding, that's another big hill that, I being able to focus on that is another thing that we all need to focus on as well too.
And possibly remove a lot of the stigma behind it.
Yes.
I
Yes.
want to I want to circle back a little bit on something that you said earlier about learning, because you said
Yeah.
that you learned so much that was outside of your original field, which I think is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
My business is IT related, a managed service provider, and there are a lot of things that you necessarily have to learn outside of your normal, you know, does computer turn on or not? And
Yeah.
one of those things, as you mentioned, was HIPAA.
Yeah.
So a lot of IT professionals can tell you a lot about HIPAA, what is allowed, what isn't allowed, as long as there's secure communications and all that.
Yeah.
And I think that for any business owner, if you think you can start a business and you don't ever have to learn anything outside of that, is doing a massive disservice to
Yes.
everybody around you.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It is absolutely. Um, One of the things, and this is me personally, and I'm not going to project, but I would say you have to be always open mentally to be able to different things as an entrepreneur and just a life citizen individual. The more open you are, the more life will give you opportunities that will expand your horizon, your current horizon. And I think it's just absolutely necessary as entrepreneurs that you have an open mind. You come in with the understanding, a certain amount of knowledge, but you are able to say, hey, I don't know all of this, and you're able to reach out to others who do have specific areas of expertise. And then, I find that if you go to people and you say, hey, here's what I'm doing, and you're open and honest, and you're not arrogant and you're humble, and you say, hey, if I could just have a few minutes of your time, I'd like to learn, if you can just give me some help with this. I've learned 9 times out of 10, people will definitely share their expertise with you and become, like you said, a mentor. But it's, if they don't, it's the time. There's so many other different
Oh yeah.
reasons, so personal, but people will are if people have learned something their own self, and they've loved what they learn, they are more than happy to share with anyone else, because it allows them to share their knowledge with someone that they were at some time. So I've learned that if you are open and you're willing to take a chance and humble yourself and just move out there and just say, hey, I don't, you're basically telling yourself, I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to go out and find out where the answers are and look for that. And with the advent of the internet and, search, and not even that, right now we're in the AI age. Any piece of information is at your fingertips, and
Yeah.
any questions, any thoughts you may have about any subject in human history, there will be some, not only just you have to learn it, but these AI bots will actually explain it to you and give you information and summarize in simple format where you can increase your knowledge. So yeah, I think it's definitely being able to have a love of learning is one, and then being able to go out there and say, hey, I'd like to talk with you for a moment.
And hopefully correct information from that AI. Oh,
Yes,
I do.
yes, yes.
I do want to. I've told this story before on this channel, and I'm probably going to tell it, a number of times. But uh, many years ago, when I was removing a tree from my property, I hired a service, and on my front door there is a mat that says there's no place like 127.0.0.1, which is in computer terms localhost. It's the IP address for your physical computer, basically.
Hmm, wow.
And the guy saw that, he recognized it was a computer thing. He didn't necessarily recognize the full significance of it. And he
Mhm.
turns to me, he's like, you must be pretty smart being in computers. I go, I sure, but you're running a business.
Yeah,
And at the time, I could not do that.
yeah,
You have another set of skills that
yeah,
I don't have.
yeah.
And so just because somebody has a certain skill set
Mhm.
doesn't mean that they can't then learn more. It also
Yes.
doesn't mean one is smarter than the other
Yeah.
uh, in general.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's absolutely right. Part of it is courage. Courage to come out of side of your safe zone. If you're able to come out of side, that's really what it is. It's about being able to come out of your safe zone in anything in life with the people that you're going to interact with understanding something new. Because if you have to go out there and try to learn something new, you have to first say that, hey, I don't know everything. I don't know where this worked for me here, but there's some information, there's a knowledge base out there that I'm not familiar with. And being able to come to terms with yourself and say, hey, I don't know everything and I should go, help. So a courage to even go outside of your comfort zone is important because as entrepreneurs know, when we get into this space, if you don't, it'll humble you. It definitely will humble you quickly, and you will be told where you stand in the food chain on this. So
Yes.
you could be a big CEO at a company, but if you go into your own business, you're starting something new, just basically, you're going to be at the bottom of the food chain of that. And that's it. You have to be able to say, hey, I was a big fish in a small pond. Now I'm a small fish in a big pond. And you just have to be able to grow and accept and build from that. Like I said, when I was a nuclear engineer, I was in my in that I was okay. Yes, I had achieved that. But when I got into this space, none of that mattered. None of that physics mattered. I mean, physics matters, but I was in a completely different zone, and the scientists there, did not care if I understood, quantum physics and I can do a Schroeder equation. It was
Right.
completely something. So, but if you're willing to humble yourself, if you're willing to be uncomfortable for a bit, you know, going into other spaces is where you can really grow. That's where you can really grow.
That's one of the things I love about these conversations is that I'm able to talk with so many different types of people, types of businesses. I mean, I'm talking with PhDs and I barely have an associate. So
Absolutely. Yes. Yes, yes. And you have a reverence for them. I'm going to be honest with you. When I first went into this space, yeah, I was intimidated. Absolutely. Absolutely. To come from a place where you know something, but it doesn't pay homage to where you're going, then you have to sit back and become um, a receiver of wisdom. And I was, I felt like, and I realized, but I once I quickly realized is that, these are people like you. They most of the time they are willing to share their wisdom with others. Get a oncology researcher in a space where they can talk about their research and what they're working on. You better put down for 2 hours because they will kindly share with you what they've done and how they're working it and everything about it. So that's one of the things if you are willing to, but if you cannot go in there thinking you know it all or even pretend. I made certain I pretended. I did not pretend like, I went to Harvard and got my degree in biotech engineering. I let them know my specialty was engineering and finance. But they were able to say, okay, hey, and because of that, the group I'm with now, the scientists I'm with, our team, we all bring different skills, and we find out, and I've actually talked with others, they said, yeah, we always thought about something like this, but we didn't have the understanding of how to do business. And if you are so focused on research and that's what you have to spend most of your time with, it is kind of difficult to say, okay, now I got to learn this other skill set. But there are other people out there that already possess that. And collaborations, and if you're willing to work with others and you can play nicely with others, you can actually form something that is greater than yourself. So that's one of the things too, is that because I found they came to me and said, hey, when we got together, they were like, well, what, if you can come and show us and take care of that for us, they'd be more than happy because they let me know, well, we don't know about that. Their eyes glaze over when I start talking about shares and cap tables and things like that. They're not under, they don't, that's not their specialty, but why would it be? So um,
Yeah, eyes definitely glaze over when I talk about managed service provider and IT, but they definitely light up when I say, and oh, by the way, I run a podcast, and then all of a sudden everybody wants to talk to me.
like you did.
So
Yes, yeah,
yeah, absolutely. So I do want to get a little bit more into the science, and I kind of want to caution you to not get too far into the weeds, because I know you probably could. And I want to caution my audience that we might accidentally get a little into the weeds.
okay.
But
Yep.
can you give me kind of
Okay.
an explanation that's something a little bit more comprehensive than a brochure, but not an actual term paper? That
Yeah.
when people hear oncology or T cell receptor therapy, uh, and they don't know where to start, what is a good explanation for that?
Great. Absolutely. And I'll try to keep it in as I go through it, I'll try to maintain my own understanding of it as well.
Okay.
Which is which stands for the immune system. All of us have immune systems, and our immune systems are what our body, our natural body, fights off viruses, any viruses in our body, any other cells or diseases that are harmful to our body. So our body is a beautiful system, and it allows us to actually self heal if we have all of the capabilities working to do that. But what happens in like I said, the cancer cells is that some of our cells become mutated or they become degradable because of either environment, and they begin to attack other cells and kill healthy cells. So with when I mentioned, I said that the immune system attacks viruses. It actually, the way it does it is there are it finds a virus in the body, reproduces that same virus in its own within its cells and then within our body, and it actually attacks it attacks those virus cells, so it replicates it. So that's why when you see that like COVID-19 and there was a virus in our body, they actually had to find a virus that would attack that. And once they created that, they actually infused it back into the body, and it would be able to target those particular COVID-19 cells. I'm sorry, viruses. Similar to what we're doing now with T cell receptors, TCR is where the body is actually producing cancer cells through a mutation in the body. There's our DNA cells has certain mutations in it that are helpful or harmful. Ours, particularly the TP53 R175H. I won't get too into detail, but it actually mutates within the cells, and those mutations specifically are over in 50% of all of the cancers that we understand and know today. So about 50% of all cancers has a mutation of the TP53 mutations of the cell, which causes a particular type of cancer. Um, there are two methods. One method is CAR T, is where on our on the surface of our cells there are um, antigens that actually are attached to other healthy cells and begin to kill or infect those other healthy cells. So CAR T looks for healthy cells, um, looks for cancer cells on the surface of it. That's what CAR T does. Ours is T cell receptor, which looks at within the cell if there's a protein that is harmful or that TP53, it has a way of pushing up through into the surface of the cell so that it can be identified on the surface what is happening within that cell. And that TP53 mutation, just out of the correct term is something that I don't, I have to explain it a little bit deeper, but it just basically it pushes it up to the surface of the cell so it can be identified what's in that cell, and it notifies the other cells to say, hey, this is a cancer cell that has that TP53 mutation. What we have are working with as a T cell receptor is that we modify a um, a virus shell, input a um, a plasmid inside of that virus shell. So, like I said, remember I said a virus. There's an antivirus, and we create that. Your body creates an antivirus against that virus within your immune system. We use one of those viruses, basically exit out, take out the shell, make it a shell, input our particular um, medicine into it so that it can find those particular um, proteins with the TP53 mutation on the surface. So, what we're doing is modifying engineering T cells outside of the body first, what your body would normally do, but we create that inside, we engineer it, and then we replace it back into the body. We reintroduce it back into the body. But in order for the body not to reject that new engineered virus, it actually has to come from the patient themselves. So the first step is to take those cells out of the body through we there's a process where you take it out of the body through we take those cells out of the body, engineer it with that medicine and the virus, and reintroduce it back into the body. And then that is actually where it begins to target those cancer cells that show the protein within the cell that they can target there. And one of the beautiful things about that process and one of the risk is that when you reintroduce the cell, those engineered T cells into the body, there's always the risk that the not only will it target those particular cells that show the cancer, but it also can target other healthy cells. There's healthy cells in the liver, healthy cells in the breast, healthy cells in the abdomen. There's all these other different cells that can have side effects on the once we introduce that virus, and it'll attack those other cells as well, healthy cells that we do not obviously want. But what we want to make certain is that we're only targeting a specific uh, target cancer cell that shows that TP53 mutation. I'm kind of just giving a 10,000 view idea of it, but it's that process is the main understanding I'm trying to share. But it's look, there's a lot more that goes into detail, because if you have to find the how those how it connects together to make certain that it targets, it's connecting. I mean, it is so fascinating. There's ways that it connects, and the angle of the connection is included in well in that, because if the angle is off, it won't connect as well, and there could be, it won't process. I mean, the scientists are so they've understood this for so long, and studied this, understood what the process is. It's amazing just in that how they understand it, and how what specifically how it can work and cure cancer. So it's I'm just I'll wrap it up and I'll just say this, but the process is we are using the body's own immune system to help engineer and target specific cancers cells within the body. And our particular mutation allows for us to focus on that particular cell without targeting other cells. And there's this view in there's this growth in medicine now that we're understanding that there are nanoparticles that you can help with the delivery system, so it targets specific cells, and it's not targeting just any other healthy cells. So there are some great advancements in the science right now that we didn't have maybe 10 to 15 years ago, and we're able to say, okay, so we're one of those companies that are using particular this understanding of this new like nanoparticle medicine for the delivery systems. There's the TP53 mutations, the DNA basis of it, and all of that together, we have a greater understanding of um, of how the cancer and how we can attack and hopefully eliminate it within my lifetime, and for the future going forward.
That I think I got some of that. So let me see if I can kind of like steel man it in a way that's a
Yes.
lot simpler. Is that
Sorry.
yeah, no, you were perfectly fine. It sounds to me like you've got a special forces operative, okay?
Okay.
We're going to use war terminology because America in 250th year.
Yeah.
You've got your special operative, and they steal the uniform of the enemy in order to slip by
Okay. Okay.
and attack just that while making sure there's no collateral damage. Is
Yeah.
that a super simplistic?
That is an absolute, because the cancer cells actually steal the uniforms of the healthy cancer cells. So that's why it's also difficult to identify them with your immune system, because they have found a way to morph their self with the antigen on the surface, to say, hey, hey, I'm a healthy cell. It morphs itself to look like a healthy cell, but actually it's a cancer cell. But internally, there's a protein that is causing the cancer, and is a cancer cell, and it has a way of rising to the top. So we're not just looking for the uniform. We're looking for there's another something else that is out there that it's targeting, that shows actually what is underneath the surface. But yeah, that's a great analogy. Yes, yeah,
Feel free to steal that.
yeah, probably will. Yes,
So you talked a bit about solid tumors, and I didn't know there's a difference. Is there solid tumors, soft tumors, liquid tumors? I mean, what is that, and what's make that especially challenging compared to how people casually talk about cancer treatment?
yeah, no, and I'm going to be completely transparent here. This is an area of why solid tumors are so difficult, and I believe and from what I understand, it is because the solid tumors have that surface. Everything so far is on the surface, and you cannot specifically, the technology right now for the internal is beginning to be a way to target the cells. But what I believe here and what I'm understanding is that in the analogy we were talking about is that the uniform is so difficult to separate between a healthy cell because the solid tumors have found a way to identify with a uniform that is similar to a healthy cell. So it is something where um, because stage 4 cancer is considered malignant, it's all through the body. You have to definitely get it through. So you have these solid tumors all throughout the body that have kind of like a shield around them that is very difficult to even target onto. And then you cannot just shoot something directly into the cell, into that tumor, because it's not just in that particular place. It could be all throughout the body. But with this, like if you're using the immune system naturally travels all throughout your body. The healthy cells travel all throughout your body, and the engineered healthy cells that we re-engineered with the I just call it the medicine. I have to find that correct term. But if it kills the cancer, the cells actually travel all throughout the body, and if they have a um, using your analogy, if it has a guiding system, a specific guiding system to only target that particular cell, just like a guided missile, then that's what we are hoping we can develop. And not just us, there are large companies doing this already in the field right now. We're not the first one, but we're just one of the uh, startup companies that are using this kind of technology now. Um, yeah, so yeah, I'll leave it there for now.
Yeah, and we actually had a show just recently that talked with somebody who was using AI models
Yeah.
to figure out how those proteins and how those antibodies interact.
Yes.
And so, I mean, that was also a fascinating episode.
Yeah, I have to
And
check it. Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think it's out at the time of this recording, but I think it's going to be out soon.
Okay. Definitely.
And anybody who's watching right now, of course, both of them are going to be out. Enjoy.
Yes.
So I want to get back to some of the building aspect of the company, especially around things that just don't exist yet.
Okay.
And your role, how much of it is science? It sounds like you're explaining the science and you're doing a good job of it, being able to kind of bridge the gap between all the researchers and people like me who don't understand as much of that,
Yeah.
and how much of it is the leadership strategy and belief building.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. The ability I'm not going to get philosophical here, but I believe Einstein that said, if you can explain your science to a 5-year old, then you don't fully understand it. If you can't communicate it to a 5-year old to make the 5-year old understand it, um, then you fully don't understand. So like I said, there are areas I'm not fully cognizant of a full understanding. Like I said, I'm given a 10,000 bird's eye view of it, but that allows me to know where it is in the space. um, and I think I love to share and talk about things that I've learned. When I was an engineer at Bechtel working on nuclear reactors, I was explaining to my spouse. I said, they was like, "What do you do? What do you do? What is nuclear?" And I said, and I was boiling some tea. I was boiling some tea, and I said, long story short, this is a 30,000
Hmm.
view right here. But do you see the steam that is coming out of the teapot right now and the whistling you hear? And you see the fire. You see the fire. You see the fire. The nuclear reactor that I'm working on is the fire aspect of it. That's what I'm doing. We're using nuclear fusion to, I'm sorry, we're building the fire to
Right.
create steam, and the steam is what is going to turn a generator that makes it get electricity. But that's the simplest view, and I see that as that's my version of understanding of something. And then I'm for what the answer to your question, I begin to put those into the parts that need to uh, make the company in its space. So you say, okay, well, we need finance, you need the research, you need the team, you need the in our particular case, we have to make certain that all of our collaboration with the university is in place because we don't have our own lab, but we have science, but we need to do research, we need to do a proof of concept validation study, but so we need a lab to do that. Howard University has excellent labs that in hospital that we can actually do that. So these are the pieces in place, and then everything comes with you have to do a certain requirements to have those collaborations in place. So you're building this structure, the infrastructure, so that everything can flow eventually. And I call it a system. You're building your system, and if you can build a system and figure out and learn how to and not everything works perfectly initially, but you just begin to say, okay, we need to refine this so that it works better when we add this part on. And so that's what I believe building a company is. You're building a system, and the system is what's going to produce the output, the value, the wealth, everything else. But the system is what you're actually putting together as an entrepreneur.
I was in the Navy for a number of years, and
Hmm.
I got to serve aboard a nuclear powered carrier.
Okay, okay.
And when you serve on a ship, doesn't matter the ship, you need to know a little bit
Yeah.
about everything on that ship.
Boy.
So when you go down to the reactor spaces and you need to know, well, you don't actually go into the reactor spaces, that's a whole other thing. But
Yeah.
when you do talk to the engineers, the machinist mates, all that, there is one phrase you need to know about nuclear engineering, and that
Yeah.
is simply hot rock makes ship go.
Hot rock makes ship go. Wow. Yes, yeah. Yeah, and this was steam powered, right? You guys have steam. It was steam powered. It what did
Yeah,
it turn the propeller? Yes, exactly.
because
Yes.
I mean that you're absolutely right. All of our
Yeah,
nuclear energy,
yeah,
for the most part, is about making water hot,
yeah,
turn
yeah,
into steam, turn something, and then condense back.
yeah, yeah,
And sometimes you'll use that steam for. I was on a little bit of an older ship, so it had the steam catapults, it had the steam arresting gear, like everything was steam.
yeah, yes, yes. And isn't that amazing? We live in the age of AI, right? And
Hmm.
computers and machine learning and everything. But computers are only, ones and zeros, but ones and zeros are representations of on electric, electric
Yep.
on or off, on or off, and everything is based on electricity. I like to call it the what was his name? That did what's the his field equations? Not Einstein, the one that did the the change from the magnetic change into electric change into I don't know if you it was the Scottish scientist that created the equations for electricity and the
Yeah.
basis of our society right now. But
Because there's a number of names I could rattle off, and I'm not sure
I'm sorry,
because there's
speak here, but I love the
ohms, watts,
yes,
joules.
uh, the equations for the change for how electricity flows and how the interaction between magnetic energy and into electric energy. But that being said, is that it's everything that we are this whole great science world we live in that the generation of electricity is based off of steam, old
Mhm.
power steam technology. And I'm sure in the future we'll find out another way to get away from the steam, but it's amazing how we use part of that as the basis to grow for the next. But anyway,
We do have some of that. We do have some of that. I mean, the photo elected
oh yes, yeah, yeah, Einstein's photo.
solar,
Yes, the solar.
um,
Exactly. Yes, yes, that is
hydrogen fuel cells.
hydrogen.
So we
We,
do have,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, we do have a little bit.
Yeah, yes, yeah, clean energy, clean energy. Yes, that's exactly which is another fascinating area of that as we need to start focusing on, but because Mother Earth is is kind of on her last breath as well too as well. So but yes, clean energy. Yes, I'm glad. So I'm just saying this, Jason, is that we live in an exciting time, you know. I mean, I'm over here in cancer oncology, cancer, research, and I'm helping with that, and I'm a part of that. But there are so many other fascinating areas that are being developed and that people are working on. And if you are a person that ever thought about becoming an engineer, there are so many opportunities to make a difference in, you can actually, go for it. It's so many things that are going to be available now to help, to change, move our world into a better space is available now, and if you are willing to go out, like I said earlier, and learn and do and be a part of this, yeah, this is going to be a great time going forward for over the next, 20 to 30 years.
I think that kind of brings me right into one of another things I wanted to talk about is that how do you balance that scientific ambition with the realities of business? Because we're seeing AI is kind of butting up to some realities, some
Yeah,
projects that are now like 5 years, delayed
yeah,
because of we can't turn sand into chips fast enough.
yeah,
So
yeah,
how do you balance those two sometimes conflicting
yeah.
realities?
No, in AI and how it affects people's livelihood and what that's going to be for the future. And I'm going to be, I don't know. I'm going to be
None of us
clear,
do.
yeah,
None
completely
of
clear.
us do.
Know how, uh, you know, and I could just say this, once you get into this space and you're, an entrepreneur, you know, there's a guideline. You should have like let's say a business plan, right? You need to have a business plan for me because it's your North Star. But if you are thinking that your business plan is going to go according exactly to its structured, you're going to be in, if you're not flexible, you're going to have a hard time in this space because I've developed business plans, but it is good, but you have to be able to say, okay, the flexibility of, you know, if this doesn't open up at this particular time, what's the alternative? I'm constantly always thinking about what I have, what's my milestone? Our milestone right now is the proof of concept, the validation stage. Does this work? Does it work? Not in the person, but does it work in the lab? Are we able to see that the technology that we have actually targets, finds, and kills the cancer cells? That's my focus right now. Everything is focused on that. So that's my North Star. That's what I develop in my business plan over a certain amount of time. But then I said, okay, so we have to use the lab, we have to get the funding, all of those to make those wheels turn. The funding is there, so what do you have to do to get the funding? And that's a huge aspect. That's the majority of what my time is finding the funding. Then it comes down to, okay, what do you have to do to find those fundings? What are the resources out there? What are the events I have to attend? What are the networking groups that I have to be a part of? That's where most of the majority of my time is spent. Is, okay, I'm reaching out to this person, I'm introducing to this person, they introduce me to this person, I'm putting my pitch together to have a 10-minute conversation with this person. So that's what you got to have that in place. But like I said, if the system is there already, what you're putting together, then what you're trying to do is get the what I call the fuel, the grease, the oil, the funding to make that train continue to flow down its track to move toward. But I don't allow myself to get away from what's that next particular milestone. And I don't allow myself to get too far ahead either. Yes, I have the next step after the proof of concept, validation, and then we go into clinical trials, filing for the FDA. But I don't let myself. I got to target first this. So it's almost like you got to be laser focused on your goal, but you can't lose sight of your other goals as well. You always got to keep that, because if I focus on this, how is that going to affect? And I'm not being prepared for what's going to come down the ladder next. So it's being in a place where, yes, I'm doing this in the interim of trying to connect and raise the funds and everything and make those very important connections. But I'm also making certain that what is my intentional goal here? What's this initial milestone that I have within the next 3 to 6 months? And our team is focused on that. Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I also have similar balance issues on that because obviously I'm running. This is my primary business, uh, SD Tech, but I'm also running this podcast, and there are times because podcasts, it is truly amazing, even with AI help, how
Yeah.
much time goes into it. Like, it's not just this
Yeah.
hour-long recording. It is
Yeah. Yeah.
hours and hours and hours of additional work. There's editing involved. There's courting people like you to
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
bother coming on.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It is a what we give to the public and what we give to the world, our contribution to society is, they get to see the finished product. It's, I don't know how, I think it's 40 minutes or an hour or so of what you find at the final product. But
Mhm.
it takes weeks, to
Yeah.
put that together. Even finding from when you say, I'm going to have my next person to come on, all the way up until like, okay, I'm about to upload it to my channel. That process that's months or probably weeks of learning,
Oh,
having
weeks, yeah.
weeks
I
together. Yeah. Yeah.
if I had a lot more guests, then yeah, it could potentially come to that, and then I would increase my release schedule to
Yeah.
2 interviews a week. But right
Yeah.
now, one seems to be working. But like right now, we're recording this on July 1st, and I don't think that this is going to release until normally I would tell you offline, but this is probably not going to release until like the 21st or the 28th of July. So
Yeah. 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 4 weeks, 4 weeks to finish this,
yeah,
and but you know what though? You can do it fast to get it out, you can reduce that. But what's the quality? And that's what I'm always,
exactly.
what's the quality? Yes, I have a deadline. I look at the deadline. Yes, okay, that's important. But I always value if it has the deadline, and I know there's consequences, but what's the quality of this particular aspect? This milestone here, is this right? Before we move into the next phase, have we done everything to make certain that this is right? Because not only us, but FDA approval wants to make certain that we have done all of our necessary data collection. We did the process exactly to where these procedures are required, and we have to make certain that it's doing exactly what it needs to do.
Right.
But I keep in mind there's somebody in a hospital bed that is going to receive this treatment. And this process right here is going to be part that is going to make that even better so that when that person receives that treatment in the hospital, they are great. But I know the work that put in, and I know the people that had made that possible. So that's what I try to keep in my mind. But while I'm shaking hands or doing network or getting ready to go to New York for the conference for the raising funds, I think about all of that. Yes, I think about everything I'm doing here is has to be for the end result. Focus mainly on the end result.
And what would you say is the one decision that has carried the highest consequence so far in building this?
Um, well, I have a family, right? And my wife and I have been together for 20 years, and we have a 12-year-old son next week. He'll be 12. And this actual um, time I've gone into this venture began uh, 12 years ago. I had done the same process back in 2014. I had tried, I went to start a biotech company. This was right after I was an engineer, and I decided to say, hey, this is something that I want to do. I talk with my wife, but literally, in the process, we were building a family. We were building a family, and my wife was pregnant at the time. And um, when she gave birth, uh, I was taking calls, from CRO companies, other research labs, funding companies, doctors, and I'm literally in the hospital, Jason. My son has just been born, like 24 hours, and I'm down in the lobby. My wife is literally still drowsy from the drugs, but I'm downstairs with my laptop taking a call, um, for a to ra- you know to for a CDMO lab, or a research lab, and I said, you know what, I couldn't do it. And work, I was putting my time with work, and I had to focus on my family. I had to keep my job, keep the job I was at, and stay focused on that so that I can raise a family. So it was difficult to say the least, but I am so thankful for my family, my son, and this is something that I was blessed with. Now I was able to move into this. Now my son is 12 years old, and he doesn't, we're not needed as much, for his care and everything, because he's like, can you close the door when you leave? Um, so my wife and I, we talked about it, and she worked, and I told her, like, about 2 weeks ago, I said, you know what, you're just as valuable in this end process, in your contribution, because they sacrifice because,
Yeah.
um sacrifice time. I'm not able to, like, many of the things, like, I'm not able to go to vacations and stuff like that and go be with them because I have other things to do. So they sacrifice, with being time with me. My wife and I, we both were self-funded. We started this thing together. So I told her, I said, you are just as much a part of this, and your contribution, and your sacrifice to this is just as important as, you can take, care just as much as all of us, as we are helping other people. So, and she understands that, and she knows this is a love of my life, and but it is a difficult thing to try to have a family and really, really be dedicated to something like this, because you're going to be consumed. And if you don't, I mean, I don't necessarily believe in the idea of work-life balance. I think everything has its time and its season, and you're either going to be, it's a season for family, and I enjoyed, those 10 years just being specifically for my family. And then, but when the time came, I can say, okay, yes, I'm focused mainly on this, and my family is there, but they fully understand. But that's a sacrifice. That is a sacrifice. And what are you willing or able to sacrifice,
Yeah.
the for success, and make sure that it is a valuable and thing that you can really live with, because there will be sacrifices that you have to contend with, and say, okay, do we go forward, or do we retreat? So that's
I agree, and my wife's been very instrumental, in this. I mean, she's not as part of the business, as it sounds like yours is, but there's still the worry about what I'm doing. When I made this decision to start
yeah,
a franchise, she had her concerns. Not that she didn't think I could do it, but she still had general concerns.
yeah,
And when the franchisors came up here for some of my final training,
yeah,
we went to a dinner with another potential franchisee,
yeah,
who's on the other side of the Potomac.
yeah.
And when we finished that dinner, my wife turned to me and goes, "I get it now.
Yes,
I get it
yes,
now.
yes,
Just just that."
yeah,
And it's like,
yeah.
okay,
That she co-signed. That is one of the that is so, you don't understand how valuable that is, to have your loved one co-sign. It validates what you already are concerned about, the risk and
mhm,
everything, but to have another person in your corner say, "Yeah, yeah, this is worth it."
just
You
simple. I get it. That's
so
all.
that's it, and that right there makes you say, "Yes, yeah, I can do it," and it gives you that encouragement to move forward. Because if you can have someone, anyone in your corner to say, yes, yeah, I get it. Because you're going to have 10 others that say, you're out of your mind. What are you doing? What are you, you're supposed to be, what kind of, whatever is this, you're crazy. Why would you do that for?
Can't you just stick to fixing computers? Like,
Exactly. Yeah. Why are you so, wild out there? You need to be more stable. But this is, you have one person to say, you know what? Because that one person, when it's tough and but it's one of those days, and you just say, hey, this has kicked my butt today, and you're having doubts. If you have a person there to be like, nah, just, hey, keep going, that's priceless.
I could not agree more.
Mhm.
So, Roman, it has been an absolute pleasure talking with you today.
Fine.
Um,
Yes.
I don't think you necessarily gave us a 10,000-foot view. I think we dipped down into like the 5,000 and then 2,500 foot at some points, but I think that is still, some great information
Great.
and giving some hope for the future that, you said 53% of cancers are susceptible to this type of technology that you're developing. I think that that is absolutely amazing. So I just want to say, even attempting it, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, no, I appreciate that, but these research scientists, and like I said, it's not guaranteed, Jason, and anyone out there, you
Nothing
know,
is.
this is going on all across the country.
All
There
across the world.
across the world, yes, absolutely. There are hundreds of thousands of doctors and research scientists, logging away hours in silence, in darkness, and in just not getting the recognition that they deserve. Because when you see someone, I'm just saying from a St. Jude's perspective, when you see a parent that is able to say, receive the news, their child is in remission, that you don't understand what that does to a person, and to be a person that has a part of that, this is for me, my the value gives meaning and value to my life. So shout out to all of those out there, and then don't 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 beat me down in the comments of if I misinterpreted anything in the science that we discussed earlier. Please forgive me. I'm trying to give a 10,000 view and an understanding, but if there's anything I said wrong, I apologize now. And if there is something that is wrong, please, I'm sure in your comments you'll hear about it. But I'm just letting everybody is very specific about
Yeah.
their tea, and they want to make sure. Oh no, that's not correct. They'll say no, it's not that, it's this. But I want to be respectful of this science and this space, because they are, this is, like I said earlier, they're doing the yeoman's work. They're doing yeoman's work here. Yep.
Yeah, I can definitely be as pandemic as the next person. But so before we wrap here,
Yeah.
there's two things that I like to have our guests do. And the first thing is, where can people find you, connect with you, or learn more about
Yep.
Fanta
Um,
Therapeutics?
I can be found. Our company is at www.oncovanta. This is our website. You can go to there. ONCOVANTA.com. That's where you can look at what we're working on. You can take a look at the team and the team, and I can also be found on LinkedIn. I basically accept everybody's connection requests. It's just, it's somebody, wants to connect with me. Hey, sure, because I know how it is when I wanted to connect with folks. So you want to reach out to me, I'm at you can just look up Roman Owens on LinkedIn, and if you put in Roman Owens and OncoVanta, you can see I should come up there. I don't have many well, you can, if you want to reach out to me through email, I'm at rowens@oncovanta.com. rowens@oncovanta.com. As far as social media, anything outside of that, I haven't really developed it yet. I think I'll start to do something like that once we reach certain milestones that we can share so people can follow our path. But yeah, that's the main two sites right now is our website, and you can reach out to me specifically through LinkedIn. Roman Owens on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And for the
Jason.
founders, researchers, business leaders, and families
Yes,
who
yes,
might be listening to this and hear about the cancer innovation and feel both hope and uncertainty,
good, good.
what do you want them to understand about what it really takes to move this kind of work forward?
Well, one thing I want to just say this is that you're not alone in this. You know, there is a world of people out there that is trying to eradicate this horrible disease. There are teams and universities and doctors and research labs and companies that are dedicated people that have dedicated their lives to helping you. If you're out there, you're feeling you're a family member, you're dealing with cancer or something like that. There are teams of people out there dedicating their life to make certain that you and your family and you, whoever, if it's you yourself, have a better life. So for me, um, well, let me just say the question again, so I want to make certain I.
Just basically, what um, what do you think is important around how these treatments are working?
Yeah, we're making progress. It's slow, it's incremental, but and it'll have a bump in it because there's with AI, it's accelerating. So we are about to possibly see an explosion of different treatment methods and different treatment opportunities for people with the help of AI, because AI is going to accelerate the discovery process, enormously, and then it'll help us to move those potential therapies in through the process, faster. So help is, we're out there. You're not alone. And what can we do all together is just continue to stay focused on this. And treatment options are there. Hopefully we'll improve that as well. But we're as a society, we are looking to make this better. And I just want to say you're not alone out there. You're not alone.
I think that that's incredibly important.
Yeah.
And I think that my takeaway is that some companies are built around problems that are just too important to treat casually.
Yeah.
Cancer is certainly one of those. I think some cancers are starting to be treated a little bit more casually just because of, again, a lot of the research that has been done in the past, a lot of the treatments that have been built have reduced a lot of risk.
Yeah.
But cancer is not just one thing. It's like like you said, pancreatic cancer, and if we can make that as easy to treat as colon cancer or as skin cancer or as I think that that is really going to help countless people,
Yes. Yes.
countless,
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
because you don't know how far forward
Yeah.
that's going to move us.
Yes. Yeah. We don't know. Hopefully, within a generation or so, from Gen Alpha, we can look back and say, I used to have chicken pox when I was growing up. We had to get chicken pox,
Mhm.
and remember having that. But when my son, they had the cure for it. They had found a way to eliminate anybody getting chicken pox, or what we call chicken pox and the measles and stuff. So, hopefully one day we'll be able to look at this and say, my grandparents dealt with cancer, that we found a cure for that now, so hopefully that's what's in our near term future, some.
And some of the prevailing wisdom at the time, because I had chicken pox as well. I don't think I was part of a chicken pox party, but they did have those in the 80s.
Yes, you had to get together. Yes,
Yep.
yeah. Brothers,
Yeah,
yep.
everybody share a cup. It's fine. Don't even worry about it. But what we then later found out from what I saw is that not having a chickenpox vaccine and actually getting chickenpox
Yeah,
then has a higher chance
yeah.
later on in life of making you susceptible to shingles, which is far more
Right.
dangerous.
Yes, you're right. Yes, the connection between chickenpox and shingles. Yes, yeah. You're right. Yes, you are absolutely right.
So
Yep.
I will say that, cancer research, it seems like it's one of those spaces that where hope matters,
Yeah.
but that hope alone
Yeah.
is not enough. That it
Yeah.
takes
Yeah. Yeah.
science, takes capital,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
takes partnerships and patience.
Yeah. Yes.
So
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly it. Thank you, Jason.
thank you. And I want to thank my audience for tuning in to Stack and Startup. And if you enjoyed this episode, to make sure and like and subscribe so you do not miss future conversations around business, technology, and growth. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. And if you want to support the show directly, you can become a patron at patreon.com/stack and startup. And until next time, impossible tasks only stay impossible if you're not willing to take that first step.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time.